For those of you who are some of our viewers, you're in different countries, we wanted to try to come up with the graduate management admission test. And that's a test a lot of people use for business schools. Some of the colleges aren't using it, they're letting you get in. Maybe different if you're coming from a different country, though. So let me take you through one of the questions for critical reasoning, and let me show you what makes them very hard. So here's a reading. A business owner started a new process for creating two of its products with the primary factor of reducing production cost. A trial production run for using the new production line showed a 15% reduction in cost compared to the past performance of the older process. The business owner therefore concluded that the new process produced savings in production costs. Now, the two questions that they have are supports, and the other one is negates. And that means goes against. And they will do things differently. Like they'll tell you which cast doubt is negates, and we're going to go over those in the next video. But right now, we're going to do one that supports. So we're looking for something that will support both the 15% reduction costs and reducing production costs, and something that would make this business owner justify starting a new process. Okay, so as we are reading, it says which of the following true supports business owner? Okay, so you start here at A. In the cost of reduction, the production led to the trial of the new process. The business owner had asked for a cost of 50%. Well, we should look at this number here because this 50% certainly does not match 15%. So this kind of shows that the didn't work, because while it did cut reduction costs, it's not enough. Okay, so then you go to B. Analysis of the trial of the new process showed that the cost reduction during the trial was entirely attributable to a reduction in the number of completed projects. Now, first of all, this word entirely on any test should already cast out, because it's called an offset word. It's something meant to throw you off. Not only that, a number of completed projects. Like, what is this really saying? It's talking about the analysis, so it's questionable, but it's kind of a weaker way of saying what the author is really getting at. Okay, I shouldn't end the sentence with a preposition, with what the author is actually trying to say. Okay, so while the trial was being conducted, production costs at the factory for a similar product produced the same 15% reduction. Now, you got to be careful here, because you have to go back to the reason that he's reducing, or she, the business owner, is reducing two of its products, because she's doing a trial run. Okay, produce same 15%. See, that's going to offset, and that's going to be a negation. So if they ask you for a negation, this could be a possible choice for C, but it's not. It's asking for support, so we got to find something that supports it. Although some of the factory's managers have been arguing that the product is outdated and ought to be redesigned, the use of the new production process does not involve any changes in the finished product. Okay, if there's no finished changes, then this kind of, you want to say that he's saved. Okay, and so if there aren't changes, it might be that it is possible the product is outdated and ought to be redesigned. The use of the new production process does not involve any changes in the finished project. The outdated part doesn't matter, but it doesn't involve any changes in the finished product. This is what's going on here. You don't want any changes. So this is possible. Okay, they're trying to get you to look at these words, and I don't mean to confuse you, but this is all stuff that doesn't mean anything, outdated. Any changes in the finished product. You don't want any changes. You just want the production processes to go down. So it's a possibility. Okay, and here you are, E, since a new process differs from the standard process only in the way in which the stages of production are organized and ordered, the cost of the new materials used in this production is the same, both the old and new production. Now, your reduction costs can go down, and your cost of materials can stay the same, but we want it to go down at all, and this is highly, highly questionable. So your choices are between B and D. And unfortunately, D is the answer. And D has some complex stuff to it. It really does. But it goes here. And sometimes, to be honest with you, your negations with these kind of things are easier. So we'll move on to that in the next video. Okay, now let's take the same slide and let's get into what if it's going to be the opposite. So remember I talked about negation. So which of the following, if true, casts the most doubt toward the business owner's conclusion? So we have the same choices, and remember, a business owner started a new process, get your keywords underlined, for creating 2 of its products with the primary factor of reducing primary costs. This is the most important part of the clause. Keep in mind that your primary factor is reducing production cost. That's what you want to do. And these other things are keywords, these other words here. This is a keyword, trial production run. That just means trial production. Okay, you could even just circle trial. For using the new production line showed a 15% reduction. So they did it. These are linked. So you go back up and say, okay, we're linked here. Reduction in cost compared to the past performance of the older process. So you got a new process and you got an older process. So it did go up 15%. The business owner therefore concluded that the new process produced savings in production cost. Now you want to get cast the most doubt. Now you can bring this up about the savings in the production cost, but overall, what are we really trying to do? We're trying to make sure that the new process actually worked and is the most beneficial. So when we do that, we want something that is negative. And when it is negative, it's going to somehow be the opposite of what the business owner wants. Okay, so a negative negates, casts the most doubts. It's the opposite of what the owner wants. So now, if there's a conclusion made between A, B, C, D, and E, it has to be something that's opposite to what the business owner concluded. So what's the business owner's conclusion? Something that happened opposite to what he thinks. So let's go over these. In the cost of reduction, the production led to the trial of a new process. The business owner had asked for cost reductions of 50%. Okay, that's okay. But, let's maybe possible, so I'm going to put a check here. Analysis of the trial of the new process showed that the cost reduction during the trial was entirely attributable to a reduction in the number of completed projects. Well, yeah, we hope so. This is called not important. Yeah, okay, who cares? Yeah, right. Okay, so what? This is logical, remember? This is critical reasoning, which is logical reasoning also. So B, we're going to put does not matter. Who cares? Who cares if this happened? So it's so unimportant that it doesn't count, so you scratch it off, and you will have these choices on your exam. Yes, we took the exam. Okay. We went to graduate school, so we took this exam. And if you want to, to ask the scores, actually the math score was easier. because the math was just simply doing numbers and production and things like this. Like, you have to take this in the mathematical form. So I scored higher in math, but the reading gets to be quite intense, and we'll do a couple of these. So while the trial was being conducted, production costs at the factory for a similar product produced the same 15% production. Now, didn't we choose this as a positive? So can we choose it as a negative? Maybe, but not usually. So I'm going to do a check minus, because usually if it's a positive on one question, it can't be a negative, and the authors of these don't do you the courtesy of giving you this question twice, one for this. They don't usually do that. So sorry, I just want to take you through the logic. Okay, although some of the factory's managers have been arguing that the product is outdated and ought to be redesigned, the use of the new production process does not involve any changes in the finished product. Okay, here's a check. Since the new process differs from the standard process only in the way in which the stages of production are organized, in other words, the cost of the new materials used in the production is the same in both the old and new project. Okay, this is out again, because the business owner is actually making a conclusion about the reason that the production cost worked. The new process is saving. So we've got to go back up here and see which causes him to think something bad about the new process. Okay, so your trial here, production of factory, similar products in the same 15%. See, this would help him, because the trial is here and it's doing the same thing. It's 15% across the board. Okay, although some of the factory's managers have been arguing that the product is outdated and ought to be redesigned, the use of the new production process does not involve any changes in the finished product. So he thinks there's a savings in production cost. That's his conclusion. Let me erase this so you can say it. Save it. This is kind of saying ought to be a data. The use of the new production process does not involve any changes in the finished product. So there's not any changes. So he's off. So your answer is D. And this is just like the one in your test practice book. Okay, I'm going to go over this again so you get it. The new business owner's conclusion, but there were savings in the production cost. But if you look at this, there were no savings. I'm going to go over it again to how you get to the opposite. I'm going to clean all this up, and I'm going to go over it one more time. Okay, so we're going to start this here. This is the business owner's conclusion. Cast the most doubt. Doubt is a negative word, means nope, not true. And this is what's pesky. Your mind has to go forward and then come back and go backwards. So here's this, not true. Okay, now when we go to D, and this is the reason it was the answer. Outdated, not to be redesigned, forget about that. You don't need to even know that for this question either. The use of the new production process does not involve any changes in the finish. He thinks that the process produced savings. No changes means there were no savings. Try to see if you can draw this on your own, play it back. Thanks for watching.